One of the great things about Staten Island is discovering a hidden gem, something not necessarily off the beaten path, but little used areas that shine. Bay Street Landing is one of those spots. Steps from the St. George Ferry Terminal, the area boasts incredible views, history, and most importantly, a place to take a break and recharge. The area gets its name from the nearby Bay Street Landing waterfront lofts. In 1982, several vacant warehouses overlooking New York Harbor were converted into modern living spaces, providing residents with amazing views and quick and easy access to the ferry. Residents can also take advantage of a variety of amenities, including tennis courts, free parking, barbecue pits, a picnic area, children's play area, dog runs, and the gym. Today, Rob and Christine visit the area and discuss how it has changed over the years.
Hello everybody and welcome to this episode of Locally Grown. I'm Robin Lefkowitz from Northfield Bank.
And I'm Christine Dehart from Salmon Real Estate.
And we are here basically at Bay Street Landing, but the Staten Island Ferry is behind us, the Lighthouse Museum is next to us, and we have the Merchant Marine dedication, rock, and anchor right in front of us. But this is a really, really cool place, and not only are the views spectacular, but the history is incredible.
You're standing right in the middle of all of it.
The city has operated the Staten Island Ferry since 1905. The ferry takes about 30 minutes to get to the Battery Park stop. On a typical day, 5 boats make 117 trips, carrying approximately 35,000 passengers. During rush hour, the ferry runs on a 4-boat schedule with 15 minutes between departures. The boat makes over 40,000 trips annually.
What is, I think, most cool about this area and like the rest of Staten Island and the episodes that we've been speaking about, but Tompkins was a real person. He was the governor of New York, and he was the vice president of the United States under James Monroe. And this is where he lived. He actually lived on Grimes Hill. He went to church at the Brighton Heights Reformed Church, and his children are who named Hannah and Minthorn streets because he had a daughter Hannah and a son Minthorn.
So it's part of the history, and now the future. You go to Minthorn Street, you go to some of the best restaurants and good flagship beef breweries there. So there's a lot of cool things to do on there.
Absolutely.
So tying that future and past together.
Correct. And he operated a ferry that used to go into Manhattan, way predates the ferry here, and he wound up going bankrupt because he was helping in the War of 1812, and he was helping to fund some of the needed funds, I guess. And then later on, Vanderbilt set up the ferry terminal, and then in the early 1900s, New York City began the actual ferry terminal that's here right behind us today.
Fun fact, back when
Love
I was
your
a
fun
kid,
facts.
love my fun facts.
Yes.
Back when I was a kid taking the ferry over and maybe going over there drinking or whatever I was going to
Never.
do, it was a quarter. Then it went up to 50 cents, and then a fire in the St. George terminal got rid of all of that. They had to close down the upstairs of the St. George terminal, and you could not pay the fare, so it's been free ever since then.
See, now I thought it was free because the city had to provide Staten Island residents with a free way off of the island, and it was less expensive to forego the quarter or 50 cents than it would have been the Verrazano Bridge.
Sounds very nice, but basically once it got wiped out, they wouldn't allow them to put it back in.
I do remember those little
and also, cars were once allowed on the ferry.
Yes, I
Cars
do remember
were
that.
allowed on the ferry. That stopped with the first World Trade Center bombing.
Correct.
No longer do they allow any cars on the ferry.
Yes, exactly. So now the ferry began in the early 1900s, and this that used to be warehouses, where the ferry used to be, became in disrepair, and that was pretty much vacant until in 1982 the then Bay Street Landing was developed into the apartment buildings that exist today. beginning with the white building down at the end, which is 10 and 20, and then there is PQ, which are the little
Right.
townhouses behind it. 80 Bay Street Landing came next, and then the Accolade really is only a few years old,
Correct.
like in the last 15 years.
This is a great representation of this
Then
New York City's problem.
And now.
But New York City has a special program for this, and it's called the adaptive reuse. And I kind of hope to see more of it in the future. So then, now, and in the future, going further down, because this takes, a dilapidated building and makes it a beautiful building. People love to be here, and it made something that was very ugly into a beautiful place.
Visitors can also take in a monument dedicated to the service of merchant marines, the only such monument on Staten Island. The monument honors 80 mariners who were laid to rest in a Silver Lake cemetery in the 1940s with no markers to honor them or their service. The site was supposed to be temporary, but following the war, the burial ground was forgotten. However, Staten Island Advance Woman of Achievement, Dora Arcelina, eventually took up efforts to give the men a proper and dignified resting place.
I want to thank everybody for watching this episode of Locally Grown. I'm Robin Lefkowitz with Northfield Bank.
And I am Christine Dehart with Salmon Real Estate. Make sure you leave some comments so that we know that people are watching.
Exactly. And don't forget to share. And thank you for this episode. It was a lot of fun. So before Ellis Island took immigrants, the quarantine was here, and it was a hospital, and this is where all the immigrants came. If you had smallpox, yellow fever, or any kind of communicable disease, then you were sent over to Hoffman and Swinburne Islands, and they later became, they hosted sailors after that they were no longer used to put ill patients.